Oh man, what is up everyone? It is Friday. That means we are in our series called Levels. And today we're going to tackle some crazy machining problems. These are real issues that plague machinists all over the world. I literally was a young machinist having the same exact problems. And then I figured out how to actually get past it. And now we're going to transfer that information to you guys. So these questions are from last week. And as you watch today's episode, if you have questions of your own about different machining techniques or the business behind machining or quoting or anything, go ahead and put your questions in the comments. And then next week, we'll be giving answers for the questions that you guys posted today. All right, so here is the first question. This is from CNC Engineers 5843. I am faced with a challenge while face milling a large aluminum plate. The size is 350 millimeter by 750 millimeter by 20 millimeter thickness, which basically equals out to about 14 inches by 30 inches by 3/4 of an inch thick. So my goal is to reduce the thickness while maintaining flatness and taper tolerance within 0.03 millimeters, which is a little over a thousandth if you're dealing with imperial numbers. Now, the problem is whenever I use my 40 millimeter face mill or other tools, the plate develops significant bend or bow in the middle, ranging from 4 thousandths up to 40 thousandths of a bend in it. Could you please guide me on best practices to avoid this? Now, I love this question right here because it's easy to take small parts and actually simply face the top, flip it, face it, make it parallel, make it absolutely perfect. But when the size gets bigger, clamping becomes an issue because as it gets bigger, you're clamping on the outsides and now you have distance between. So as you put pressure in, the center will lift. And then when you cut it, whatever it lifted, that will become your bow. So now when you deal with big plates, it's all about technique. Okay. Now, if you're a company and you have a lot of money and you make your own product and money is not such an issue, you can actually order the material and actually have it sent to you absolutely perfect. So you can simply put in your holes or do whatever it is that you're going to do to that specific part. But if you don't have a huge amount of money and you need to get the job done and you want to do it in-house and you don't have grinders. See, with grinding, you have double disc grinding where you actually take the plate right through. It hits both sides and actually makes it absolutely perfect. That's one technique. You have lapping machines that lap in. They won't change your bow, but they'll actually give you just a beautiful surface. And as it goes down and down, it kind of makes it better and better. You have Blanchard grinding where you actually put it on a table that kind of spins and pressure comes down and basically grinds that top surface. Now, each one of these processes is done on a very expensive machine. And if you don't have that machine, you're gonna have to pay the money to get it. So you might get a plate that's like $30 and all of a sudden now it's $100 per piece because you're getting it absolutely perfect. So a lot of machine shops, what they'll do is they'll actually go to a magnet. So a big flat magnet, they'll actually put the plate down, boom, especially when it comes to steel or something that works with a magnet, they'll like use a magnet and then they will grind it or mill it. Or they'll use a vacuum fixture, which basically is a fixture that you can create channels in and a vacuum sucks through those channels and the channels are specific to that plate. Basically, the plate sits on top and just sucks it down. And then you simply fly cut the top or face mill the top. But again, you have problems because if it has a bow and you put it on a magnet or a vacuum table, it will go flat. But as soon as you release it, it will bow again. So you're not solving the problem. So this is exactly how we figured out how to solve this real problem that you see in machine shops. First off, I actually want to get the plate away from vices. Get vices off the table. I want to have surface area. So I want to take a nice fat plate, long plate, boom, boom, and I want to put it right on the surface of the CNC table. Now, when you put it nice and flat, it's all good. But now we got to figure out how do we actually clamp it and keep it down. If I actually put bolts through it or I put clamps on top, then I can't take my face mill and go all the way across it. So there's a problem right there. But what we did, we actually found some clamps from Mighty Bite that sit super low profile. They actually fit right into the T-slots. And then we basically come nice and low and then we grab it. And when we grab it, we take an indicator onto the plate. We put the indicator down, we bring it to 0, we clamp it. The first couple cuts, like we'll flip flop a couple times, we'll clamp it. It might be like 3/1000. So 3/1000, I'll actually come across it, boom, 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 and then it'll be bowed 3/1000. So we'll do that a couple times, boom, boom. Once we get it pretty dialed, then we'll clamp it and we'll make it so it's only like 5/10. Boom, okay? So the indicator, so you're at 0, you clamp it, the indicator is right at 0, you clamp it, go to like 5/10, so you have something, and then you keep your RPMs nice and low, you come across it, come across it, come across it, and then you release it, and then you will have a bow of about 5/10, which is well within the spec that you're trying to get, and you have a perfect part. Now we want to use common sense when we look at the tool path. So if you want a consistent, perfect path, let's make sure we go in the same direction. So we're going to actually cut down, we'll actually come across, step over, we'll go down again, we'll come up, we'll go over, and we will keep climb cutting exactly in the same motion instead of going back and forth. And if you actually have a face mill or a shell mill that has multiple teeth and they're staggered, they're not perfect, you can literally take off, like if you had a 4-flute, you can take off 3 of them and leave just 1 and just treat it just like a fly cutter. So you just get this nice, perfect finish that goes right through the plate. Now, another thing to consider is spindle speed. The more pressure you have, the more spindle speed you can have. But as you start loosening the pressure and you only have like 10ths or 1,000ths, you want to bring your spindle speed way down. And you got to remember now, like 500 RPM seems nothing for a small end mill, but when you're using like a 3-inch diameter face mill and it's way out there, it's actually getting after it because it has to cover all of that distance on the outside per revolution. So you got to have the mindset to just understand the difference right there. So since you don't have a lot of pressure and the part could pull up, keep your RPMs nice and low and just take nice small cuts. Bring that thing, just make it so perfect and just come and kiss the baby right there, all right? You got more pressure, you can go higher RPMs, you can go faster, but as you take off the pressure from it, just take it nice and slow. Everybody that follows us knows we have an Aerospace Academy. If you go to our Aerospace Academy, you can actually go up, you can see our ISO grid. Now this ISO grid had to be within tenths on flatness after you cut out all of the different triangles and features. And so at the beginning, we got the plate, and the plate actually had a bow of 18/1000ths. So in this series, we actually take you right through the process of making this ISO grid. And it's an ISO grid just like the ones you'd make for SpaceX or Blue Origin or somebody else. So you literally can take that knowledge and go quote that work and do it yourself. But what's really cool is when you go through the steps on the setup, we take you right through how to take a plate that's 18/1000ths bowed, and we show you exactly how to take it into tenths. And then we take all the material out of it and we're still within a thou flatness. So go ahead and check out that series and check out some other series because that is high level machining education for you guys. Boom. All right, so the next question that came in last week that we're gonna go to is from Rosh, it's like ANP240. So Rosh Amp 240. And this is what he has to say. Hey Titan, love watching your videos. I have a question. I need to bore a hole with a tight tolerance, but the issue is achieving an RA 0.4 millimeter. So I looked up a 0.4 millimeter, and when you're dealing with Imperial, that's about a 16 RA, okay? So 0.4 millimeter or a 16 RA. I use drilling, and then I use an end mill to finish it, and then also burnishing, but it takes a lot of time and the results are not consistent. Can you please suggest a proper tool that can give me a 0.4 RA always? I appreciate your response. This is used on a gas block that goes on a rifle barrel. So one of the issues here is I'm not sure what the diameter of the hole is that you're using, but I do understand the process that you're using. So what you're basically doing, you're actually drilling, and then you're coming back and you're end milling around. Then you're coming with a burnishing tool to get the finish absolutely perfect. Now, one of the things that I would do is I would drop the burnishing tool, all right? Because when you look at a 16 RA, a 16 RA is achievable with an end mill. And if you're already using an end mill, then just drill and mill it and be done with it. So when I look at end mills, I can consistently get an 8 RA. When you go down to a 4 RA, then you have to go do like an MCD tool, okay? Where then you can get into like a 4 RA, which is extreme. A 4 RA is literally a mirror that you're looking at. And you've seen us show multiple videos where we get these crazy mirror finishes, and that's with an MCD tool from Horn. But on this one, on a 16, it's actually not that difficult to get. Again, I don't know the entire process or what the diameter is, but this is the style that I go with. Now I'll drill in and I'll just leave about 5 thousandths on the outside for the finish cut, okay, per wall. Now, instead of dropping all the way down with an end mill, coming across it or ramping in and coming around it and then coming out, I actually do a little bit different technique. And it's just something I came up with over the years and I found success with. So what I do is a downward spiral, okay? Now end mills matter, okay? So if you have a 3-flute end mill, that means that the core is very small, so it'll have a lot of deflection and it's easy to chatter, okay? If you go to a 4-flute, then you have a little bit bigger core, stronger tool, less deflection. If you go to a 5-flute or a 6-flute, it's an even bigger core. And sometimes, depending on how many parts, it's worth going to an 8th-flute tool where the flutes are much smaller, the core is much bigger, the tool is nice and stable, and you want to make sure it's not hanging out more than it needs to. So have a nice solid tool. And then what I simply do is a downward ramp or a helical. So just like how you would drop down and helical out when you're doing a thread mill pass, I'll actually come in, boom, I'll start like 20 thousandths above it, then I'll keep my RPMs nice and low to put pressure on that surface so I have no vibration. And I'll simply come in and I'll just start ramping down. And what happens is, let's say I'm going 3 inches deep, and each 360-degree movement goes down in ½ an inch. I would reach the bottom in about 6 or 7 passes and then do one final pass at the bottom and then come out. What I want my flutes to actually be the full 3 inches. As I come and I use the bottom of the tool and I keep engaging and engaging, never stopping and going down, then I'm basically, as I'm cutting new material, I'm also doing a spring pass on the top portion that was already cut. So as it gets cut, I'm going down, I'm going down, I'm going down, and I'm doing a spring pass, spring pass, spring pass by default because the tool is so long. And it just, by coming down, that downward motion, that climbing downward motion, just allows more rigidity with a tool that has a bigger core. And as I come right down, then I just come around 1 time, 2 times, and then I just slowly ramp out and I just lift my tool up. Now during this process, there's a few things you can do. If you use like a Core 5 end mill, that's a 5-flute, you can get the coolant through version, so you're pounding coolant into the hole, and therefore it's just all the chips are coming out and you're not running over any chips, and that allows you to not have any bumps along the way. So having through spindle coolant is necessary. If you don't, then channel all your coolant into that hole, especially on like one side of it, so that it's constantly pulling those chips out right there. But that technique right there over the years has worked very well for me. And by just using these 2 steps, you can actually get rid of that burnishing tool that has been inconsistent for you. Now, if you actually have a drilled hole, another thing you could do is simply ream it. Now, reaming will actually give you a very good surface finish. It's all about speeds and feeds and chip evacuation and stuff, but it depends on the size of hole. I'm imagining the hole being a little bit bigger since you're using a drill, end mill, and burnishing tool. And also, one of the probably best things to do, but it costs a little bit of money, is get an amazing thick boring tool. Not like thick, like you have these boring tools and they stick way out, then you got the insert and it's just like going all the way around. There's not a lot of rigidity, but the nice thick ones where the tool kind of sticks out of it here. You know, the ones that are just so legit that even if the material moved, like it would just keep going and it would make a perfect hole, even if it started taking off 50, 100, 200 thousandths, because the tool is that rigid. Now, these boring heads can cost a couple $1,000s, but they can just solve your problem. So just drill, come back, then just bore perfectly, come out, problem solved, and you'll hit that surface finish every single time consistently. All right, that is the end of today's episode. If you guys have any questions, any like complex, crazy questions, bring the hard stuff, put it in the comments, and there's a good chance that we might actually answer that next Friday. And anybody out there, and you guys got experience, go into the comments, answer the questions. Like let's have communication in the comments. If you see something you know the answer to, go ahead and answer it. And anybody who's actually putting the question out, just use your common sense, because there might be multiple people with different answers, and just weigh them against each other. But through the entire process, we will all rise to greatness in 2026. Boom, levels, baby, because that is what the trade is about. It's about levels and rising to the top. Love you guys. Boom.